This is the lowest demo rating for a Dynamite that aired in its regular time slot in history. Here's the thing about this number, and I want to make this clear. There's no spin in terms of whether the number is good or bad. It's a bad number. But I'm also throwing this number out with an asterisk. I'm throwing this number out until next week. This is a weird week. And and if you're someone who doesn't like hearing bad news about AEW ratings, or you're tired of ratings discourse, or whatever the case, you better batten down the hatches, because Rampage and Collision are going to do some record low numbers as well when those numbers come out on Tuesday. They're going to look real bad, because you have two shows that aired out of time slot on Saturday afternoon and went head to head with the Survivor Series. So Collision and Rampage are going to get absolutely slaughtered, even worse than Dynamite did. But I don't think any of these numbers really mean anything until we see what the show does next week, because the shows do next week. Because, first of all, this Dynamite aired live on the West Coast. That's 5 o'clock. Weird time on the day before Thanksgiving. Some people are at work, some people aren't. People have plans on that day. And look, I know people are comparing this number to previous day before Thanksgiving Dynamites. None of them aired live on the West Coast. And again, that's not to say this wasn't a terrible number. Of course it was. But the fact that it aired live on the West Coast, we don't have any comp for that for the day before Thanksgiving. I'm just saying, this is not the kind of, I'm not raising any kind of red flag for this number. And I'm not going to, and I don't even, and to me, when I analyze these ratings, I don't care what Collision or Rampage do this week, airing out of time slot, going against Survivor Series. It's going to be low numbers. It's kind of irrelevant. But there's going to be a lot of mass panic when those numbers hit, and a lot of trolling from the people who like to see AEW not do well and all that. And I really don't think those two numbers mean anything at all. And I don't think that this Dynamite number means anything if they just do a normal number next week. Then it just means that this was just a weird number on a weird day where the show aired live across the country, which it normally doesn't do. And it's just an anomaly, and we all move on. If Dynamite next week, and by the way, if you look at the quarter hours of the show and you compare the ebb and flow of the quarter hours to the 90-day trend line, that tremendous resource that WrestleNomics provides with the trend line, every quarter hour on Dynamite followed the 90-day trend line to a T. And that almost never happens. You go look at it yourself. It followed the trend line to a T, just with couple 100,000 viewers less, but the trend line remained the same, right? To the 90-day trend line. So, take that for what you will. So the people who did watched it to the same general patterns that they normally watch the show. If next week's Dynamite does a 0.21, right? Which would be right in range with what the show's been doing over the past few weeks outside of this weird week. This number doesn't mean anything. It becomes a big giant who cares. Because it's a weird week, it's an anomaly. There were factors that affected the number, and it will not matter.